You have a very interesting job title, General Manager of Innovative Medicines Gulf. So, innovative medicines, precision medicine, these initiatives, these sort of frontier approaches, how have they led to more personalized and effective treatments?
The more we know about the diseases, right? The more we know about patients and how diseases affect the patients, we are able now to more and more to really to have developed target therapies.
Welcome to the Health Beats podcast, brought to you by the inaugural Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week. The Health Beats podcast series is your window into healthcare industry news making headlines and the role of Abu Dhabi and the UAE in unlocking global healthcare momentum. We give you insights into the future of the global healthcare sector and Abu Dhabi's contribution to it. I'm your host, Lara Satrakian, and in this week's episode, I'm joined by Pedro Matos Rosa, General Manager of Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicines Gulf. Our conversation today is entitled Pioneering Patient-Centric Healthcare Solutions. Pedro, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Lara. Nice to meet you, and nice to be here with all of you.
We have so much to talk about. Johnson & Johnson is a name that so many people know, many of us grew up with. So tell us from the J&J perspective in that world, how do you see patient centricity? How do you prioritize it? How does that impact your approach to healthcare innovation?
Johnson and Johnson is the biggest healthcare group in the world. We put the patients at the center of everything that we do, and this is just not a buzzword that many companies use. It is really embedded in everything that we do since many years. We have our lighthouse document that is called our credo, that exists since 1943. Is the patient is already embedded in there, right? And it's actually the first priority for all the employees in Johnson and Johnson. The first responsibility is to the patients, along with doctors, nurses, caregivers, and families. But patient is really since our the beginnings at the center of everything that we do, right? And just to give you some examples that how we really embed patient centricity. Well, first, it's about our clinical trials, right? I mean, clinical trials lead to approval of our treatments, of our medicines, and our devices. And we need to include a diverse panel of patients to ensure that really our medications work effectively across the different patient types. And we know that, Larry, you're different from me. I'm different from my family members, from my peers. So we need to ensure that these medicines really work across the different type of patients, the different genetics of the patients.
And how do you
We
do that? What's the process?
so listen, I mean, we actually, I mean, we try to include the different type of patients that exist around the world, and we also actually have an office of diversity of inclusion in the clinical trials, right? So we really aim that in each single trial that we do, that we have this diversity in terms of patients, right? So that's very important for us. This is how to ensure that worldwide our medications will be effective.
So the
Then
design target of your clinical trials is
Exactly, right?
diverse.
So we do this. Then we also incorporate patient perspectives into the trials. More and more, we actually also consult patients to understand, what do they go through in their journey, in their disease journey, and how our clinical trials can be more impactful. And this is also important because we also incentivize, health technology assessment entities to also incorporate patient view on when they are assessing the value of our health technology, of the value of our medicines, the value of our devices. So we really want to ensure that patient voice or different patient profiles are embedded. Then we also develop patient-centered products. And what I mean by this is that, it's not just our goal is not just about to deliver, the most effective treatment, but it's actually ensure that the patients have a good quality of life and that our treatments are delivered in the most convenient way. So we also try to ensure that all our treatments are delivered to patients in the most convenient way, preserving the quality of life. And we aim since many years to try to develop treatments that are not just taken many times per day or many times per week, but actually that are also taken every 6 months, every 3 months, right? The most convenient way, and also to optimize the resources that are used either for the patient to go to the hospital to receive a treatment. So if a patient goes less times to the hospital, it's going to be also better for the resources and economy. So we have an holistic approach, I would say.
That's very interesting. I never thought about the user journey of taking a medicine, and that's interesting thing to hear about you doing. You have a very interesting job title, General Manager of Innovative Medicines Gulf. So, innovative medicines, precision medicine, these initiatives, these sort of frontier approaches, how have they led to more personalized and effective treatments?
The more we know about the diseases, right? The more we know about patients and how diseases affect the patients, we are able now to more and more to really to have developed target therapies, right? That really target the diseases and the patients with certain mutations, specific mutations. Because again, you know, lung cancer, for example, is not one single disease, or multiple myeloma is not one single disease. It affects different targets, and we as patients we have different mutations. So we really are working to ensure that that the most effective diseases are treating the specific patients. And we have many examples already developed, are they lung cancer or bladder cancer, but also in the future where we target specific mutations with our mutations to ensure that we have the most effective treatment for the patients. And precision medicine is really the future, and many examples are today in oncology, but also gene therapies, right? Gene therapies, and as an example, we have on our as one of our disease area strongholds, retinal diseases, and where
Retinal diseases,
retinal
I,
disease for the
yep.
eye, right? So where patients have different type of diseases provoked by different type of genes, and we are really targeting for each patient the gene that the patient has. How can we help the patient to recover the sight, the view, or to be able to not develop any retinal disease, right? Because again, genes are different, and and we need to ensure that we better understand the disease. And that's exactly what we do in Johnson and Johnson. I mean, we invest significant amount of money to really understand the disease. And that's why we also have specific therapeutic areas and specific diseases that we're targeting to be the experts in these diseases. This is fundamental in order to be able to really to drive this agenda of precision medicine.
You are hitting on something that we've touched upon only lightly so far in other interviews. I think is so interesting. This idea you mentioned, disease area strongholds, or picking. In one of our interviews, we talked to someone in metabolic health who just, wow, he just picked that. And we said he's just innovating the heck out of it. And so I want to talk about how you choose a disease area stronghold. What is it about? Is it that the technology is helping in particular with the approach to that disease area and the parts of the body that it impacts or the way it operates? Like, what is making it possible for specific technology? Or is it a choice from J&J that's strategic and in many ways? What makes it possible for one disease area to benefit so much more from these emerging technologies that you can really get in there and make it a stronghold of innovation and help, frankly, help people by just a much wider sort of run than maybe other disease areas.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, we really try to tackle the unmet needs, right? We are an innovative player, and we really aim to bring these transformative medicines that really drive a transformative outcome for patients. And the only way for doing it is really to tackle the unmet needs. So we really try to understand, how the diseases are evolving, where the disease is going. Actually, we said we will go where the disease is going, really to be able to ensure that that we if there is no medicine for certain diseases, that we'll be able to bring this
Right.
treatment for this disease. Since the beginning, you're really trying to tackle these unmet needs that exist out there. But then an important point also is that we need to be experts in diseases, right? So we're not. I know metabolic diseases are or an unmet need, but we, as Johnson & Johnson, we are not experts. Other companies are experts. We are experts in oncology and hematological diseases. We are experts in immunological diseases, and we are experts in neurosciences diseases, right? So it's, again, it goes back to the point that I wanted to make before, is that we really need to be expert in these diseases, but for that we need to prioritize, and that's exactly what we're aiming for.
What role does data play? Data analytics, how does that direct your research, your choice of disease area, anything, the development process? How does it contribute to understanding disease drivers better? What's the role of data in this full cycle?
I mean, data is king here, right? Not everywhere
They
data.
used to say content is king, now data is king.
Exactly. Data is king because, this allow us to really be experts and understand these diseases. What is super interesting is the late developments that we are having with machine learning, AI, because this allows to exponentially accelerate the knowledge that we have about diseases on one side. And on the second side, it allows us to accelerate the development of different target therapies, right? We can reduce by 4 or 5 folds the time of development of a new target therapy.
It's
And
unbelievable.
this, I mean, the transformation in healthcare in the next 10 years will be just fantastic and amazing.
How fast are we talking here? What is it? No, I'm serious. This is, I mean, we talk about the COVID example, but just generally speaking,
Yeah.
how much are we of a difference are we looking at in terms of drug or therapy development? How is that? Just
Yeah.
4 or 5 times from what to what?
Listen, I mean, for example, in terms of development of new therapies, eventually in the past it could take 10 years to develop a drug. Now we can eventually start talking about 3 to 4 years, right? This is a big development because you're going to significantly reduce, with the data that we're going to have, reduce the time to define and have these target therapies, and then the development also and clinical trials will also be accelerated through this machine learning and AI, right? So this is a significant improvement. But but the good example that you mentioned is actually COVID, right? And how fast, really, putting all the resources, putting everyone involved, we're able to address COVID with a vaccine development that was in less than 1 year, that we're able to bring vaccines to the market, right? It's a good example where putting all the efforts and resources, we're able to tackle this big issue.
I've heard a lot about AI for drug discovery, but what are some of the other ways that AI speeds up this
Yeah,
process?
fantastic. One thing is drug development, right, and disease expertise. The other thing is also on the patient journey. How can we faster diagnose patients, for example, right? Today, in certain diseases, it can take up to 2, 3, 4 years to diagnose a patient. Especially in rare diseases where patients go from one physician to another physician just because it's very hard to diagnose these patients. So today, with the technology that it's in our hands, we are able to diagnose much faster some patients. Just to give you some examples of what we are doing in pulmonary hypertension or AL amyloidosis and hematological disease. Those diseases are very rare, and if a patient doesn't go directly and immediately to an expert, it can take up to 3 to 4 years to diagnose. So what we're also doing is, machine learning and AI can be used to diagnose faster patients with pulmonary hypertension, AL amyloidosis as examples of what things that we're doing. But across oncology, for example, by using digitalized images of biopsies and machine learning and AI, we can much faster detect smaller tumors that patients have, or subtle tumors that patients have. And this will be available for the majority of the physicians to be able to diagnose faster these patients. So this will be a big transformation also, and a significant improvement for the outcomes of patients.
How do you balance the need for, of course, scientific rigor and regulatory compliance with this high speed culture of innovation, frontier sort of atmosphere?
The speed of innovation is will be transformed, as I was mentioned before, right? I mean, the all the tools that we have available right now, the knowledge that we have developed will accelerate the development of target therapies and true innovation for patients. Now, the question is, how fast can we bring this innovation to patients that are really, in an urgent need, right? So we really work very closely with the regulatory bodies, and we try also to embed them in the development as quickly as possible, since the beginning and of the development of a drug, so that they are aware already about what we are trying to do, what we'll be doing, and what we'll bring to the market. We also develop with academies and our healthcare professionals and the regulatory bodies also new endpoints. For example, right, it's a good example that, for example, in multiple myeloma, the FDA in the US just approved a new endpoint that is called minimal residual disease that can also streamline and reduce significantly the time to bring new therapies to patients. So at the end of the day, it's really working with the health authorities, the regulatory bodies, but also academies to ensure that very early on in the process, we are able to try to accelerate to bring new drugs to the market. You know, Another important point that we're talking about is about data science and AI, right? So this is a whole new space, right? And new laws and the regulations need to come into play. So again, it's about working very closely and ahead of time with the authorities to ensure that we have the proper laws and guidelines and regulations to accelerate the introduction of new technologies, but at the same time to preserve the privacy of our patients. That is also very important.
Absolutely. What are the challenges that you're seeing? What are some of the barriers that are up ahead for everyone, not just J&J, when it comes to bringing innovations to the market now, new formats of solutions? What are some of the challenges, and how have you thought about how to overcome them?
In terms of challenges and barriers, there are many that will come in the way of and barriers for patients to get access to treatments. Healthcare is very big, but it is a problem that we need to tackle because populations are aging more. The population is also increasing, but also the pressure on payers is also increasing. So one of the biggest problems that we're going to have is actually access and affordability. Listen, the way we're doing is to ensure we always try to ensure that we work also ahead of time and collaborate with authorities on the development of treatments. But I think the most important thing is to really to bring these transformative treatments that will make a significant improvement in the outcome for patients, and showing this improvement in the outcomes, right? Not only on the clinical benefit, but also on the economical benefit and the resources optimization that these treatments bring also to the economy. A patient that today, for example, is suffering from rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic diseases, for example, or any mental health issue, he will not be able to produce to the society and to contribute to the society, right? So we are aiming also in our studies to embed this point of view of economical impact of patient outcomes, so that health authorities understand that this is just not a treatment that is bringing an improvement in efficacy, but is actually significantly improving the outcome that will allow the patient to contribute to the society.
So much importance in that access question, access to these technologies and to the benefits of technology. Um, when you think about all of the things that you are working on at J&J, what excites you the most? What's really just have a real passion for it? It's just super promising, super significant, and you are just so excited that it's happening.
Yeah. Well, I'm listen. I've been working in Johnson and Johnson for the last 16 years, and this company keeps amazing me. Right? Again, we're driven by our credo, with our first responsibility for the patients. Right? And we're really tackling diseases that have a big impact on patients, and there is a big unmet need. Listen, I mean, we work mainly in three disease areas, as I mentioned before: oncology and hematology, immunology, and neurosciences. Across all these three diseases, we you are bringing innovation. Let me just give you some examples. I mean, talking about one of the diseases that we are tackling, multiple myeloma. At the beginning of the century, the overall survival for patients was about 3 to 4 years. Nowadays, overall survival for these patients is reaching almost 10 years. And this means that what? If you think, Lara, that the average age of diagnosis for these patients is 65 years old, this means that most of the patients, they will actually not die from multiple myeloma, but they will die from something else, right? This is something that excites me a lot, and we are continue to invest here. In terms of immunology, we are bringing treatments that increase significantly the productivity, right? And these patients will not die from rheumatoid arthritis or from psoriasis, but will actually, improve their quality of life significant. And we continue to develop treatments and discovering new pathways to ensure that patients are able to have a normal life, and not only a normal life that make them able to go to work, to raise their kids, and to take care of their elderly family members, but also to contribute to their mental health, right? And this is the bridge also for mental health. I mean, we are really, especially after COVID, mental health is becoming a big issue around the world, and not only after COVID and the effect of COVID, but also, social media and others are impacting the social life and, of course, mental health of people. So we are also significantly investing in mental health, and this is very promising, again, to contribute to one of the most devastating epidemics of our century. But also, we're also looking for treating diseases like Alzheimer, that today, unfortunately, it will become even a bigger problem than cancer in the future. There is pretty much no really real solutions for these patients, and this excites me a lot. So, I mean, and across these three therapeutical areas that I just mentioned, we're bringing true innovation, and we aim to be the number one companies in these three therapeutical areas. And everything that we are bringing is really to make a difference. Just another thing, Lara, to mention, why I'm so confident and so excited about this. We are one of the companies that invest the most in R&D around the world, right? I think only one company is ahead of us by not that much. And by investing that significant amount of money in R&D, we really can make a difference for patients.
Absolutely. Medical ethics, always interesting, always important. But how is the conversation changing? What are the new ethical considerations? What does responsible innovation look like in the development of new treatments and therapies? How is the new technology and the new way of doing things intersecting with the old conversation on medical ethics?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, it's super important, right? And listen, we are a company almost 140 years old, right? And we couldn't have survived without really the highest standards in terms of ethics, right? And again, with the evolution that we are having today with machine learning, artificial intelligence, right? It is very important that we continue to raise our standards, our ethical standards, right? So, I mean, I mean, of course, from a data privacy perspective, this is fundamental. I mean, through our clinical trials, we are managing a lot of data from patients, so we need to ensure that this data privacy is a must. But at the same time, we need to ensure that this data is secure, but also, if there is a need, if there is an ask, that we also are able to show this data, aggregate the data, not patient specific data, right? So this is fundamental for us. We, talking about transparency, you know, there are always many questions about clinical trials and how they are developed, the results of the clinical trials. In 2017, we actually had an agreement with Yale University to develop an initiative called Initiative, where researchers can ask the Yale University to have access to the data in our clinical trials. And there is an independent committee from the Yale University that analyzes the request from the researchers to see if it's an honest request, and if they consider that it's an honest request, this data will be available for researchers to take a look, right? So this is also very important, to ensure that people understand that whatever we're going to do in Johnson & Johnson is made with the highest standards of ethics.
Anonymity, review, etc.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
also leads us to a very interesting question. You're talking about a very interesting bridge between industry and academia. We see lots of bridges between industry and academia, but this is one. Data now is its own bridge. Can you help us understand how you experience and shape collaboration with different partners? How do you come together with different stakeholders to move together faster toward a shared goal? Who does what? What are the lessons learned? Partnership is a word that gets tossed around a lot, but really concretely, how do you make that happen and how to make it work?
Yeah. So listen, despite the fact that we aim to be experts in our diseases, right? We cannot do it alone, right? We are conscious about this, and Lara, actually 50% of our development is made what we call in-house. 50% is done outside, and we partner with other companies, other biotech companies, to develop. That's one aspect of it, right? But even on the so-called in-house development, we need academia, we need patients, we need regulators, we need payers to develop our drugs, to enhance and our research. So we, since the beginning of our, as we start the journey of developing new treatments, we collaborate, right, extensively on the research. To again to and just make sure that we understand the disease, and then on the clinical trials also, we need to go where patients are. So we develop this with academia. That's one aspect, right? Then the second aspect is then when a product is available, therapy is available in the market, is how do we collaborate also with academia, but also patient advocacy groups, regulators, payers, et cetera, right? All the key stakeholders, because our ultimate goal is to ensure that patients have access to our therapies. So we, think again, and we it's fundamental for us really to reach out and to the different stakeholders in the different countries to understand really, because one thing is launching a treatment in the US. The other thing is launching a treatment in UAE. There are very, very different markets, very different needs. Hospitals, academia, they operate very differently. Payers, regulators operate differently. So we need, since the beginning, to reach out to each one of the stakeholders to ensure that these patients get access to the treatment that they need,
End to end,
end to end.
puzzle pieces
Absolutely.
fitting together. Uh, Looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of healthcare? What are the biggest challenges facing us in the future of healthcare, and how do you see J&J contributing to the future of healthcare?
There are many challenges that healthcare face, right? And there will be uh, experts say there will be a shortage of healthcare professionals, for example. Population is growing, population is aging, and new diseases are appearing every day. I mean, COVID again is a good example, that very recent example. But other diseases are appearing and being diagnosed, and we need to be at the forefront, and we need to collaborate with everyone, right? And I think collaboration is fundamental word to be able to tackle these issues. In what matters now for this point with Johnson & Johnson. Because populations are aging, population is increasing, affordability is a problem. Again, we need to ensure that we are able to develop really these treatments that are transformative, that will bring a significant improvement on the outcome for patients, but at a fair cost, right? That's also important. Nevertheless, in order to be able to bring this innovation, there is of course a significant investment that needs to be done. And I think here we need to partner with health authorities, regulators, payers, academia, also to ensure that there is, for example, not a misuse of treatments, right? Treatments need to be efficient, and needs to be used efficiently, so that there's not an overuse or an underuse, right? So that really we use our resources, that we have the most efficient way, for example. And we are contributing and collaborating with the health authorities to ensure that, at least for our treatments, only the patients that need are receiving our treatments. We are significantly investing in building the capabilities for with health authorities, with payers, to ensure that they understand, what is the value that our treatments are bringing, and how they can assess also the technologies that we are bringing to the market. What is the value that they are bringing into the market? So again, I would say that the key word, Lara, here is really about collaboration, starting from the beginning, to ensure that we have all the stakeholders involved, understand that we have one common ground, that are the patients, and how do we bring these treatments to patients.
Pedro, it's a great note to end on. This was a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lara.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Health Beats podcast. For more healthcare industry news, visit the Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week newsletter. The link is in our bio. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and continue to follow Health Beats by Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week for your global healthcare industry digest.